We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
Illuminati News.
Free and independent.
Here's a currently popular favorite for both American or South American popular dance lovers. Deep in a Dream, and Helen Forrest is the singer.
Mistaken, you have a personal connection to Carl Sagan.
Come to my arms, may this bliss never end, for we love anew just as we used to do when I'm deep in a dream of you.
Most reports of unidentified flying objects turn out to be something else, right?
We glide through a lover's refrain. You're so appealing that I'm soon revealing my love for you over again. My cigarette burns me, I wake with a start. My hand isn't hurt, but there's pain in my heart. Awake or asleep, every memory I keep, deep in a dream of you.
Welcome everybody! Christy, how are you today? It's hot, eh? It's hot, it's hot. It's hot even in the mountains, guys. Even in the mountains. But welcome everybody to the Leo Zagami Show, who are our sponsors today, aside from those who have, of course, purchased the book of the moment, The Vatican's Top Secret Alien Agenda. I will be with L.A. Marzulli next week, and also with Sean Hatwood. So at the beginning of August. So we have a lot of shows coming up, aside from our own show, which is the best show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah! Okay, next week we will be back in our studio, Christine.
Thank God.
It's not easy.
I can't wait to go back home.
Ah, why?
Because I like home better.
Oh, but
everything
you know,
about it. I know it's hot. I don't even care. I like my kitchen. I got like this tiny little kitchen, but it's so much better than what I have right now. So
it's good that actually, when you go somewhere else, you know, you then appreciate more your own home. Huh?
Well, then why even leave?
Well, I mean, it was to in search of some refreshment, because down in Palm Springs, guys, at the moment it's almost 120.
Yeah.
So it's like.
But it's pretty hot up here too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a little bit better. A little bit.
Everybody has hot weather.
Everybody. Ah! Okay, so did we thank our sponsors?
Didn't I thank them? Yeah, thank you, Daniel Estes, and everybody that bought the book.
Okay, we need sponsors, guys. GoFundMe or Cash App. You can find the Cash App handle at leozigami.com together with my latest articles. Today we are talking about one of the protagonists of my book, or at least one of the many protagonists of my book, which is Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan. You remember Carl Sagan when you were young, watching the Cosmos on TV?
Yeah, I remember. I was little, but I remember.
Yeah, I mean, he was, I mean, of course, he's been dead for now. He died in 1996. Man. I mean, this is like, that's a long time. Huh? We are basically not celebrating, but we are basically 30 years after. 30 years after, yes, 30 years after. So what is particular about this guy who was the image of science on TV, on the media, and his last book, because his last book was called The Demon Haunted World, and his version of a demon haunted world is completely different from our version of a demon haunted world, because he considered demons to be metaphors for pseudoscience, superstition, and unreason, which in his eyes included astrology, ufology, all kinds of things. So rather than literally hold entities, Carl Sagan, who, by the way, was a product of Reform Judaism, which for those people who have read my book on Jeffrey Epstein, The Rise and Fall of a Frankist Monster, Reform Judaism is a product of Sabbatean Frankism. So this guy, Carl Sagan, was not really a religious guy, but regarding ufology in particular, he went through 3 phases in his life. There was the early phase of his career, 1950s, 1960s, where he was kind of curious about UFOs and the phenomenon, and he actually was promoting, the view that this kind of phenomena should deserve a structured scientific review. He wanted to invite people to analyze Air Force data, organizing himself public academic debates on the subject. Then he went through a different phase. And some people have said that this different phase wasn't a natural phase, but that in reality, he was a member of those scientists behind the legacy program, or even the infamous and mythological and legendary Majestic 12. So,
what's the Majestic 12?
Well, we will be discussing that too today.
Okay.
In any case, in his mid-career, in the 1970s and 1980s, he became more skeptical. He emphasized the fact that there was a total lack of physical proof. And even if he stated that there is life in the universe for sure, also considering the Drake equation, he then came with the consideration that, yes, there is life in the universe, but it's far too remote from us. And he was always demanding hard evidence, advocating for SETI, which he was one of the promoters for the search of extraterrestrial intelligence, which, of course, he then popularized with his own novel, Contact, which became a movie.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so that was that.
That was, of course, his product. And in the late career, in the 1990s, though, before dying of cancer at a rather young age, he was suddenly deeply critical and viewed UFO culture as a threat to societal critical thinking. So he wanted to deconstruct the modern myths like alien abductions via psychology, started to criticize even somebody like John Mack, which he personally knew. Now, let me show you how skeptical he was in the last part of his life before analyzing further this guy who apparently had a lot of skeletons in the closet and might have actually owned a green badge at the maximum level of national security behind the scene. He wasn't at all skeptical, apparently. But first of all, let's pick up a couple of clips of the late Carl Sagan and his skepticism on UFO.
And on UFOs, I would just say no one would be happier than me if we were being visited, and it would save me so much trouble. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and I would say the evidence that we are now or ever have been visited, despite the claims of being abducted and God knows what happens on the spaceship, those claims are crummy. The evidence just isn't good, and my mind is open. I'm willing to look at new cases, but there has been no compelling cases. Physical evidence, photographs, a stolen logbook of the alien captain, nothing that would convince a skeptic.
Okay, so very skeptical, and this is him actually on his TV show being still very, very skeptical.
Most reports of unidentified flying objects turn out to be something else, like the refracted image of a bright planet or the re-entry of an artificial satellite. Some are psychological aberrations, some are hoaxes. Never is there any compelling physical evidence, a detailed close-up photograph of a strange spacecraft or a small device of extraterrestrial manufacture, a book written in alien hieroglyphics. Never. There are reports of such things, but never the things themselves. The search for alien civilizations retains its importance despite the striking failure of the UFO evidence. Most astronomers, for example, consider extraterrestrial life a subject worthy of vigorous, if cautious, pursuit. For myself, I find something irresistible in the idea of discovering a token, maybe a simple inscription, which would provide the key to understanding an alien and exotic civilization. This is an appeal we humans have felt before.
Oh, Carl Sagan, he was born in 1934. Like I said, he was of Jewish origin. He was born in a Jewish reformist family, so not really religious. Carl Sagan died in 1996. He was an assistant professor initially at Harvard. Later, he moved to Cornell. He had, though, some problems at times with the actual academic world. However, the interesting thing about Carl Sagan is the controversies that erupted after his death, when some people who actually witnessed things that were contrary to the popular beliefs about himself. I mean, there was a guy. Now, you know that TV series we watch, Dark Skies?
Yeah.
Now, Dark Skies is a TV series that was created, amongst the others, by a gentleman known as Bryce Zabel, who I think is also Jewish, of course. We're not making this a matter of race, but, you know, of course, there is a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood. And Zabel was a guy who has always been in the media. And then at one point, he has also co-authored a book with the prominent ufologist Richard Dolan. Now, Bryce, while he worked on TV, and he also worked, by the way, as an adjunct professor, so he was also, I mean, he's also an academic. Zabel is still very active. You can see him all over the place. And Dark Skies features Majestic 12.
Okay,
Those group of hidden people who were working on the reverse engineering, they were behind the scenes of the Kennedy man. No, they were human, of course, they were human. The Majestic 12, though, has always been contested as a reality. And in the last book written by Carl Sagan, he criticizes Majestic 12 and they believe in Majestic 12. So I'm going to make you read some passages of Carl Sagan regarding Majestic 12. But before we go there, I want to show my viewers, the viewers of the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy, every week we are here. And of course, Carl Sagan is also in my latest book, which I hope you got. It's good. Hope you got this book.
Yeah.
Everybody should have a copy of this book.
Yeah, they should.
Absolutely. If they are our viewers, of course, and they are interested in something more than just scratching the surface. Now, Bryce, while he was involved in a TV show, after interviewing Carl Sagan, he followed them at the car park, you know, like you do when you have a guest in your show.
How many times did that happen a year?
Yeah, many times too. So, you know, they follow you at the car park, and you know, you maybe chat with this other guy, you know. It could be Sean Stone, it could be the son of Jesuit, it could be anybody. It could be Alex Joy, it could be anybody that is following you to the car park.
Yeah, lots of different kind of people. And sometimes it's dark in that car parking and you don't want anybody following you.
But in any case, a debate arose that became actually rather tense at one point when Bryce told them certain things that were, in his eyes, inconsistent with Carl Sagan's skeptical take back then. So let's see exactly the testimony of Bryce here, debating Carl Sagan about UFOs.
Mistaken, you have a personal connection to Carl Sagan.
I did meet Carl Sagan. I was the host of a show about the Voyager 2 encounter with Saturn. He was my guest, and we got into an argument in the parking lot afterwards about whether UFOs should be acknowledged by him or not. But I said, you know, I'm not sure I agree with you on this UFO issue. And he's, now I don't have the exact words of everything here. My memory's not that good, but he kind of looked at me like, yes, you know, one of those very skeptical things. And I said, well, look, you're famous for saying there are billions and billions of stars out there in the universe. You've even said the universe is teeming with life and that some of it has to be intelligent and that it's clearly more advanced than we are, even by maybe 1 million years. But you also insist these other beings could never be here on Earth because the distances are too vast. And he looks at me and he goes, he had been smiling up to this point, got a little less smiley, and he goes, what's your point? And I went, you know, it's just that if you're going to look for radio signals from other civilizations, I mean, if they're so far advanced from us, maybe they know physics better than we do. Maybe they're already here.
Yeah. Now, this is interesting because at the same time, while he was being skeptic, he was also, you know, skeptical. He was also riding contact, which in a way portrays this big distance, but then there is a solution to that distance. Let's not forget that, like I explained in my book, to write this contact novel that then became a movie, a successful movie with Jodie Foster that we all appreciate, to actually do that book, he consulted some astrophysicists. So, I mean, he didn't just do it, like he wanted to have the technical certainty that, in a way, you could create that tunnel that you see with Jodie Foster. Doesn't really launch herself up in the sky. She goes deep into some kind of opening,
like a portal?
Yes, an interdimensional portal, which is
and that's advanced.
Yes,
thinking,
yes, yes. So this is a little bit weird. Then we have another testimony, and this testimony, guys, it's very interesting also because it's a testimony from a mathematician and a data scientist who is called Robert W. MacGyver. No, MacGyver is not MacGyver from the MacGyver. Immediately I remember funny ponytails. No, the Robert W. MacGyver.
No, I wouldn't say it.
No.
MacGyver.
MacGyver. Okay.
Weir, maybe.
So
I never seen that name in my life.
Okay. So this gentleman here, who is a mathematician, please, Christy, you can actually, if you want, read for our audience.
You better make it big.
Huh?
I don't have any Luton left.
Oh, no. Okay. I can read it. Dr. W. Mac.
I can read it.
Okay. He's a mathematician.
Okay. Dr. Robert W. McGuire is a mathematician, data scientist, and entrepreneur whose career bridges the classified world of national intelligence and opens frontiers of commercial space and scientific anomaly research. Born in 1954 in Tennessee and raised in Alabama.
Okay, but this we tested for 25 years.
For 25 years, McGuire served as a member of the technical staff at the Institute of Defense Analysis Center for Communication Research, IDACCR, in Princeton, New Jersey. Effectively working for the National Security Agency, he applied advanced mathematics to cryptology and signal processing.
Okay, so a guy who has been in the intelligence for a long time, a professional, had this to say about Carl Sagan, which he found in a secret meeting, and he himself was very surprised about finding Carl Sagan there and finding him with a special kind of badge, a badge that only contractors with the government have. So Sagan was criticizing the system publicly, criticizing even the government for certain things, and then behind the scenes, he was an hypocrite, because that's what this testimony implies. But let's go and check this testimony that is from the Danny Jones show, a very popular podcast. Let me find here the actual exact passage. Okay. Just a second, ladies and gentlemen. Just a second, and you will be listening to this.
Hell on Earth.
But isn't there
hell in the space?
Isn't there theories out there that there could be life in the atmosphere of Venus?
Yeah, there is now, because of the chemicals that have been detected in the upper atmosphere of Venus. And we don't know of another process that is not biologically based that would make those chemicals. So it's an indicator of life without being proof of life.
Right, I see.
So what they want to do is send a probe that'll actually stay there and work and see if they can't find the microbes.
Okay, so a little bit further on here, and we should be on top of it.
No idea who would be in the room. Walked in there, and there was Carl Sagan, Arthur Clarke.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. And I went, what in the hell is this? And so Kay Spireman says the president has ordered us to give technology to people that might use it who are not in the intelligence community but doing scientific and other interesting work. These people are from SETI. We believe you have technology that will help them. So we told them about the technology, and when that was the first moment that the Vulcan Venus scientist Carl Sagan knew who demodulated that data. You should have seen, it was literally stereotypical. Okay, this is a great story. Millions of people are going to want to know this story. And I'm going, wow. I says, Carl, he says, boy, that's great work. And I says, all I want's an autograph.
Well, that's crazy. He was at the NSA.
No, the story gets better.
So now let's listen to this part in particular, this testimony, which really gives us a completely different view of Carl Sagan. A Carl Sagan who, like Bryce himself said elsewhere, was very much close to the Majestic 12 legacy program, as we call it today, kind of situation.
Much better. He's supposed to be this enemy of the national security state. You saw that in Cosmos.
Right.
You saw his public state. No. He had on his shirt a badge. On this badge was Carl's name. On this badge was his picture. The only way you get a picture badge allowing you to roam around the intelligence community is to be a cleared insider. He was a cleared insider. I knew it the minute I saw that badge.
So an insider means somebody who's working with the intelligence, with the military industrial complex, with the defense contractors, all part of what we now commonly refer to as the legacy program. I mean, Carl Sagan was basically selling us a lie in the last few decades of his life, because apparently his change of, perception towards ufology was not natural. It was guided by the interest of the defense contractors, of the people behind the scene, the NSA, and so on, to never let anybody know the truth. And so here we are now today exposing the lies of Carl Sagan.
Contractor?
He was a contractor because he had a green border.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. He had a green contractor badge, intelligence community special badge.
Yeah, because wasn't there, like, as far as his timeline is concerned, wasn't there like a point in time where he like stopped believing, you know, the whole UFO thing, where he was like a big proponent of it, and then he kind of stopped and
I want to tell
changed
you,
directions?
all I know is what I've told you. When that happened or how it happened, I don't know. I know that when he was younger, he's already known to have been interested in all sorts of things, but it's consistent with reverse engineering, secret space program, and all those kind of people saying, if you're going to be cleared, you got to shut up. And it's consistent with that without me having any evidence that that happened, because I just don't know.
Right. Wow, that's a freaking crazy story, man. Considering everywhere you've been, your whole career, and the...
So here we are really finding an unexpected side for some people who still think Carl Sagan was this, guy who, no, he was a mouthpiece for them, like you said before we went back on the air.
Yeah.
And he was presenting a view of the UFO reality that could fit with what the system wanted. They didn't want us to discuss like we're doing these days.
Why not?
Well, because of course there is the reverse engineering element to it. Now, like I said, before he died, he published a book. It was his last book, and he went on to present it on TV. And during the presentation, he also criticized once again ufology, and this time he also criticized John Mack. Now, for those who don't know who John Mack is, we will explain that in a moment. But first of all, let's read from the Demon Haunted World this passage regarding, I mean, for those who don't know what MJ12 is, MJ12, also known as Majestic 12, also known as Magic 12, is an alleged organization that appeared in documents that were later labeled as false, that were circulated amongst ufologists in 1984. Now, in his criticism to pseudoscience, he dedicated quite a few pages to Majestic 12. But, Casey, please read this passage here about Majestic 12 in Carl Sagan's, just a second, in Carl Sagan's book, this paragraph.
Okay. One of the most provocative purported intersections of UFOs and secrecy are the so-called M12 documents. In late 1984, so the story goes, an envelope containing a canister of exposed but undeveloped film was thrust into the home mail slot of a film producer. Jamie Shandera, interested in UFOs and government cover-up, remarkably, just as he was about to go out and have lunch with the author of a book on the alleged events in Roswell, New Mexico. When developed, it proved to be page after page of a highly classified, eyes-only executive order dated 24 September 1947, in which President Harry S. Truman seemingly established a committee of 12 scientists and government officials to examine a set of crashed flying saucers and little alien bodies. The membership of the MJ12 committee is remarkable because these are just the military, intelligence, science, and engineering people who might have been called to investigate such crashes if they had occurred. In the MJ12 documents, there are tantalizing references to appendices about the nature of the aliens, the technology of their ships, and so on. But the appendage
The
appendices
but
were not included in the mysterious film.
Now, he then goes on and says, therefore says that the document is bogus. The UFO expert Philip J. Glass and others find the lexicographic and typographic inconsistencies, and he basically debunks the whole thing. I repeat this in his last book, but he went on presenting his last book, which was a criticism towards the world of ufology, included in what he was labeling pseudoscience. But it seemed a little bit, I mean, he then died after a few months after this interview that was broadcast on American television. Let's go and check out this interview, and especially this passage in which he criticizes John Mack. Of course, it will be revealed in the interview who John Mack is, and we will also dedicate a brief clip also to what John Mack was actually discussing and studying, because he was a psychiatrist, somebody who wanted to understand the psychology of abductions in particular.
Carl Sagan is one of the preeminent astronomers of our time. He is known for bringing the heavens to our living rooms with his PBS series Cosmos.
So here you can see that he was already sick a few months before he died.
His latest work is The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. It explores the country's growing fascination with pseudoscience, astrology, faith heals, the supernatural, and the like, all superstitions that he says threaten to undermine true science. I am pleased to have him here, and I also take note of the fact that he is the David Duncan Professor of Astronomy and Space Sciences and Director of the Laboratory for Planetary Studies at Cornell University, Distinguished Visiting Science at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, California Institute of Technology, and co-founder and president of the Planetary Society, the largest space interest group in the world, and a former Pulitzer Prize winner. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the passage that we will be analyzing here, a passage which is very relevant for what we are discussing today. In particular, he's going to be discussing the American psychiatrist John E. Mack. The late John E. Mack, who died in 2004, was himself a winner of the Pulitzer Prize for his book A Prince of Our Disorder on T. Lawrence, and his clinical expertise was known all over the world, especially in the section regarding child psychology and adolescent psychology, but then also the psychology of religion, and in later years he dedicated himself a lot of time in regards to the phenomenon of abduction. But let's hear what Carl Sagan says.
Seem to be fascinated by UFOs right now. But one thing,
what is that? Before we leave UFOs,
right.
Tell me about you and Professor Mack.
John Mack is a professor of psychiatry at Harvard, who I've known for many years. We were arrested together at the Nevada nuclear test site protesting U.S. testing in the face of a Soviet moratorium on testing. And many years ago, he asked me, what is there in this UFO business? Is there anything to it? And I said, absolutely nothing, except, of course, for a psychiatrist. He is a psychiatrist. Well, he looked into it and decided that there was so much emotional energy in the reports of people who claimed to be abducted that it couldn't possibly be some psychological aberration, that it had to be true. He believed his patients. I do not believe his patients. Many of these stories are about waking up from a deep sleep and finding your bed surrounded by 3 or 4 short, dour, gray, and sexually obsessed beings, who then take you to their spaceship after they slither you through your wall and perform a variety of objectionable sexual experiments.
But here we have Dr. Carl Sagan, astronomer, versus Dr. John, no, Dr. What's his first name?
Mack.
John Mack. MD.
No question. So what's the problem?
How could... He's a
How
scientist.
how can scientists disagree?
He's a scientist.
Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking how could... I mean, what do you think of this man coming to these
I
conclusions?
think he is not using the scientific method in approaching his issue.
And when you constantly... I mean, I assume you come at him with both barrels in conversation.
And in the demon-haunted world.
And he says?
He says, I don't appreciate the emotional force.
You don't.
Of these reports. But many people awaken from a nightmare with profound emotional force. That doesn't mean that the nightmare is true. It means something went on inside our head.
You were making a point before I jumped to John Mack.
Oh, yeah. What I wanted to say is, going back to the question of adequate evidence on something that's emotionally really pulling you. I lost both my parents about 12 or 15 years ago, and I had a great relationship with them. I really miss them. I would love to believe that their spirits were around somewhere, and I'd give almost anything to spend 5 minutes a year with them.
Do you hear their voices ever?
Sometimes. About 6 or 8 times since their death, I've heard it. Carl, just in the voice of my father or my mother. Now, I don't think that means that they're in the next room. I think it means that
they're in your head.
I've had an auditory hallucination. I was with them so long, I heard their voices so often. Why shouldn't I be able to make a vivid recollection of it?
Here's what's interesting about this for me. I mean, you won't see this, but I'll throw it at you anyway. You convinced me a long time ago that it was arrogant for me or for anyone else to believe that there wasn't some life outside of our...
To exclude the possibility.
To exclude the possibility was an arrogance of intellect that we should not assume. You couldn't prove it, you didn't know it was there, but the arrogance for you...
Right, we don't know if it's there, we don't know if it's not there. Let's look.
And if you take that, why can't you say, there's a lot we don't know? There's a lot of power there that we don't know.
There's a lot we don't know.
You know?
It's what I believe.
But
that doesn't mean that every fraudulent claim has to be accepted. We demand the most rigorous standards of evidence, especially on what's important to us. So if some guy comes up to me, and a channeler or a medium, and says, I can put you in touch with your parents. Well, because I want so terribly to believe that, I know I have to reach in for added reserves of skepticism, because I'm likely to be fooled and much more minor to have my money taken.
What was it, J.Z. Knight was it?
Yeah, exactly. She has a guy named Ramtha, who's 10,000 years old or
35.
Something. 35, yes. And
so here we have the late Carl Sagan, just a few months before he died, explaining his skepticism, being challenged, of course, on what he admits he didn't really know. But he firmly criticizes the late John Mack, another academic. So let's go and check out what John Mack was all about, so we can understand a little bit better than Carl Sagan's criticism. However, I was really, when during the pandemic, even in Italy, some podcasters from the system, some academics started to cite Carl Sagan's last book, criticizing the no-backs, the people who were against. I saw that at that point, it was really the system. I mean, Carl Sagan was the guy who went and testified about climate change. Really? Launching amongst, his followers, the people who were reading his books, the idea that we were under the threat of climate change. But let's go and hear directly from John Mack his take on UFO and aliens.
See, behind all these questions, all these areas, all this talk about paradigm change and resistance is our worldview or our cosmology, who we are. And so the relevance of what I do to that arena is that what I do is a kind of game breaker, because it tells us, wake up folks, things are different than you thought. That is, the Western worldview that I was raised in says that we are the top of the intellectual hierarchy in the cosmos, that any perception of God or intelligence is a projection of our own unconscious. I was raised to think that way as a Freudian, and that if people perceive other intelligences out there, then it's interpreted as some kind of psychological problem. But that would be the worldview. This phenomenon doesn't lend itself to it. This phenomenon says, no, that's all wrong. This phenomenon, if we take it seriously, which is to say that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of human beings in the United States and around the world are being approached or being visited by some kind of intelligence. People call them alien because they're afraid of it. Beings of several sorts, but one type most prominently, 3.5 to 4 feet tall, with huge eyes, black eyes, blue eyes, and bald, large heads, thin bodies, often with a very high energy field around them, and that this is very real, and it's not a product of any sort of mental illness. Now, that is completely incompatible with the Western worldview. Not only does it show that there are other intelligence at work here, but they can show us that they have technological powers, they have intelligence, they have capabilities that we can't even begin to approach. So this is about as shattering a confrontation as the Western worldview could expect to have. So in that sense, it's a game breaker. It means, and they also, just to make matters worse, they convey in the experiences, in the encounters, on the ships, through the eyes, through telepathic communication, they show us ourselves. They say, look, you're destroying the earth. It is not yours. You have to stop this. People become deeply troubled by this communication. And it's like it shows us our deepest, most destructive dimension of ourselves. And so it's a confrontation of great power, which is not welcome. Now, the society as a whole doesn't want to accept this. So they say, well, maybe it's psychological, or they attack me, or they, shoot the messenger, whatever. But a group like this is willing to consider it because it fits in with what we're trying to do, which is to overcome the insulated arrogance of the Western worldview and change the way we do things, change all of our institutions, the destructiveness, for example, to the ecology that the whole corporate economic system has brought about. Well, this phenomenon absolutely calls that into question. It challenges the very institutional basis of the culture.
John Mack died in 2004, so a few years after Carl Sagan. They used to be friends, but they didn't really agree on Carl Sagan's late skepticism, because he increasingly became skeptic, and in a very suspicious way for some people. We have seen certain testimonies that indicate Sagan was actually a gatekeeper of massive proportions. Today we have people like Al Puthoff. We have also other kind of people like Eric W. Davis.
Can I say something? Don't you think most people who actually have a voice are just either gatekeep, and I'm talking about everyone, whether it's this subject or any other, like political or what, they're just basically talking heads for the, I mean, if you actually get a voice.
I mean,
Because
if you are a political pundit, that's okay. But I mean, that in regards to politics, of course. In regards to science,
I think so. It's everything.
Yeah, in regards to science, of course, like I explained in my book, you have a clear plan dictated by the Vatican on what they can say, what they can't say, and also infiltrating, for example, the grassroots movements that created things that became popular, events like Contact in the Desert, and then
so it's just all censored from the start.
It's all controlled.
We don't want that because,
well, of course. Now, in his last book, the Demon Haunted World, this 1995 book that defends scientific skepticism and says to promote critical thinking and fight pseudoscience, we have even the baloney detection kit.
The baloney.
The baloney detect, or combating pseudoscience. The book critiques the beliefs in alien abduction, UFO, superstition, showing why empirical evidence matters. But in the end, there is something too artificial about it that leads you to believe that then Carl Sagan was living almost a double life. Because, I mean, when you read and then you see Contact, that is...
Well, it goes against what he said.
And like I explained in my book, why did he write Contact? He wrote Contact because he had... in the early 70s, the opportunity of doing an academic event discussing extraterrestrial intelligence, in which you had the Reverend Stendhal, who then became the Lutheran Bishop of Stockholm, who started to talk about the religious side, and then he included that religious element in Contact. In fact, there is a heavy religious element in Contact. So a religious element that almost goes against what he was all about.
So what was he all about?
I mean, that is the thing. What was Carl Sagan all about?
Tells you lots of things, but nothing about what life was like 35,000 years ago.
Shirley MacLaine believes.
Shirley MacLaine believes that Ramtha was her brother.
Things like the Loch Ness Monster, all that.
Again, is it
photograph?
Fakes.
Shirley MacLaine, yeah, she used to hang out with my friend Jordan Max. So I remember Jordan talking about this, showing me pictures before he died.
Anybody from the 70s remembers Shirley MacLaine?
Everybody for even before the 70s, because I mean, she was a Hollywood star. But here we have Carl Sagan.
But she was also weird.
She was also weird, of course. But with that kind of weird, of course, Carl Sagan could then, put himself on a pedestal.
Famous photograph has now been shown to be a fake, but could there be a unknown mammal or even reptile of large dimensions swimming in a Scottish lake? Sure there could. That we don't know about? Sure there could. Who says no?
But nobody.
But the evidence does not support it, does not demonstrate it. So do we say, oh, ridiculous? Yeah. No, we don't do that. We say unproved, which is a Scottish verdict.
Before maybe, if we have time going through the last part of this interview, I would like to go through a book that came out a few years ago, written by the Colonel John B. Alexander.
Oh, no.
Now, John B. Alexander wrote this book called Myths, Conspiracies, and Realities, in which he constantly cites Carl Sagan. He cites Carl Sagan, cites UFOs, A Scientific Debate, edited by Carl Sagan and Thornton Page. And why does he cite Carl Sagan? Well, John B. Alexander is a very ambiguous figure, because here we are talking about a guy who worked with Robert Bigelow, a guy who worked, of course, at the Skinwalker Ranch. and of course, then you have the wife, the wife that did the survey.
Were these the ones on Oprah?
Well, that was Michael Aquino, who, by the way,
okay.
worked with John B. Alexander. yeah, they worked in the same team. These were mind controllers, specifically pointed to psychological operations. And John B. Alexander invokes in his book often the Carl Sagan maxim, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But he applies it in a different way. So, he's skeptical towards the conspiracy theorists, and Alexander fully relies on Sagan-style skepticism when dismantling the true believer camp. He argues that if a person claims the US government possesses crashed alien spaceships, reverse engineered advanced technology, or frozen alien bodies, the burdens of proof fall entirely on them, because they cannot provide verifiable hard physical evidence to support these massive claims. Now, we know that things are going in a completely opposite direction to what Alexander has been claiming in his book and in his interviews. Now, Alexander almost weaponizes Sagan's own logic against mainstream scientific debunkers, but at the same time, Alexander doesn't use Sagan skepticism to dismiss the existence of UFOs. Instead, he uses it to reject certain stories, including Roswell. Yeah, I mean, Alexander directly attacks the claim that Roswell crash provided the U.S. military with alien technology, even if he was a friend of the late Colonel Philip J. Corso. I even show in my book a photo of John B. Alexander, Alputov, Corso, all together with Teller also, who was involved in the Manhattan Project. Here we have Corso with, and Corso is the one who, of course, in the famous book, The Day After Roswell, spelled the beans. While Alexander notes that Corso was a personal friend and a high decorated officer, he explicitly criticized him. And so let's go and check out in this interview, John B. Alexander, who, like I said, picks up from Carl Sagan skepticism and utilizes it because he's another gatekeeper. He's a massive gatekeeper. He's a massive manipulator. And this is, I think, very indicative of what he says in this interview that was given in 2015, so 11 years ago. A very different situation from what we have now with the current ongoing soft disclosure and what is happening with all the various revelations and non-revelations, because we are still talking about soft disclosure. But I mean, gradually, some truths are being revealed. However, let's check out what Colonel John B. Alexander, who, by the way, worked with Davis, who then works with Alputov. They're all together. They're all part of the same cover-up of the legacy program. Okay, so let me find exactly the passage that we will be viewing here. Just a second, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have great technical means, actually. We have very small technical means, because we are kind of like, no?
We're homemade.
Homemade. Yes, homemade. Okay, let me see a second if I can check out exactly. Okay, yes, okay, perfect. This should be the one. Okay.
There is something out there.
Yeah. Now we need to talk about some of the myths, and in particular, a very well publicized myth by an associate of yours, Phil Corso, who wrote a book in which he claims that he was involved in the Roswell incident, and alien technology was retrieved, and he was involved in
disseminating information. This is sometime later.
Yeah.
This is that was 47. He's talking about 1960. That
transferring alien technology to U.S. corporations.
Correct.
It's a very popular book, and so as a result of that book and others like it, many people believe that the U.S. government has some sort of a treaty even with alien intelligences from other planets.
Well, that's another leap. But yeah, there's people that were trading technology for humans.
And what's your response?
Well, my response...
first of all, here's a response. This guy is a member of the Temple of Set. I exposed him in Volume 8 of my Confessions. His wife then went on to write the survey on the way religious people will react to a disclosure day. That was done thanks to Robert Bigelow. Robert Bigelow got them involved in an organization that then for many years studied the insane events that are still ongoing at Skinwalker Ranch. But let's listen to what he says here.
Now, Phil was a personal friend, really liked him.
And a person who seemed to be completely credible.
Oh, yes. But when the book came out, I wrote him a letter that was 7 pages at the time. It's appendix in my book that said, here are the errors. And it started with little things like it's Adelphi, Maryland, not Adelphia, as he had, too. No, the Cold War was not a cover for fighting E.T., which he and others have said is totally preposterous. More specifically, with the...
This guy is one of the guys who, with Michael Aquino, went to the Wessenburg Castle in Germany of Himmler.
Did that ritual?
And did that ritual. So, I mean, John B. Alexander is definitely not only a gatekeeper, but an ongoing Satanist.
Technologies, the inference was that somehow they were going to inject technology as we moved along, and it would help advance our industrial efforts. Integrated circuitry, night vision, fiber optics were specific examples. The problem is when you go back and you check the history of the
somebody was citing Giorani in the chat. Well, Giorani was completely brainwashed by Alexander. I said that in my book, Dividing a Top-Secret Alien Agenda. I mean, either Giorani's been brainwashed, or either Giorani is, of course, also part of the psychological operation that Alexander is still working on, because behind the scenes, guys, he's still pushing disinformation as well as some little nuggets of truth here and there.
Development of these technologies, you do not see a sudden leap where a big advantage was gained by...
So he says that there is no sudden leap. When we all know that, I mean, between the 1930s and the 1950s and 60s, guys, I mean, the world completely transformed. And if we see what happened between the 70s and the 90s, and what happened between the 90s and today, I mean, there is definitely a leap.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, 100 years ago, people will never even imagine what we have here in front of us now, how we are communicating to you with a Starlink satellite in the middle of the California mountains, with a video that we are actually able to broadcast in real time. I mean, it was unthinkable, you know, and then this technology is the fruit of reverse engineering. And of course, this has been confirmed by people like David Grush or others. So, I mean, Alexander, guys, don't trust him ever. But it's interesting, of course, to see how he kind of carried on that kind of Carl Sagan disinfo act.
The, quote, alien technology. I'm very familiar with the night vision because the guy who physically built Night Vision Lab was a personal friend, and we'd worked with him, and very open to phenomena. We'd actually done PK parties with him. The
psychokinesis,
metal bending.
Metal bending parties,
So he was open to phenomena. But the description in the book as to how night vision evolved is just totally wrong.
So you've got a situation here where a person with a stellar career in the military comes out with a story like this, a person who's been a friend of yours, someone who seems absolutely sincere, and when you talk to him, he seems convinced that it's
Absolutely.
real. But when you fact check his story, it's very clear that it's preposterous. It does not accord with the facts.
The title of that chapter is called The Corso Conundrum. And it turns out, coincidentally, that I was with Phil within 2 weeks of his death. What happened is he had a major heart attack, had recovered. I was down in the area for my son's wedding. We went up and spent the day with him. And one of the things he told me is, gee, I really need to do another book to correct the errors that are in the first one. And he was working on it. He actually, now, Phil was not computer literate, so a lot of this is handwritten and all that. And unfortunately, he had the second heart attack that proved fatal just a few days later.
Unfortunately. Ooh, weird. Tell you, weird. Absolutely weird. Do you believe him? I don't believe one word that Alexander ever spills out of his mouth. It's kind of like...
I don't believe him.
It's a little bit like listening to Carl Sagan all over again.
With your conclusions on this point, that you seem to say it's growing, this kind of pseudoscience.
No, sorry to interrupt. I don't. This is part of being human. Humans have had this way of magical thinking through all of our history. The problem is that today the technology has reached formidable, maybe even awesome proportions. And so the dangers of thinking this way are larger. Not that this is a new kind of thinking.
You are living with myelodysplasia.
Or I have been.
You have been. It's in remission. Or you have...
Well, you know, with diseases of this sort, and all cancers...
Cancer of the bone marrow?
It's myelodysplasia is not exactly cancer of the bone marrow, but if untreated, it inevitably leads to leukemia. And the trouble with all these diseases is you never know that you've got every last cell. You can only detect down to a certain level. But down to the level that anybody can detect, and in terms of how I feel and my stamina and all that, it seems to be gone. Very lucky.
Because you had a sister who
now
enabled you to have a bone marrow transplant.
That's one, and also the enormous advances in scientific, in medical science in just the last few years. If I had had this thing 5 or 10 years ago, I would be dead sure as shooting.
He died just a few months after, so no matter what the scientific ideas on the various advances in medicine, he ended up dead within only a few months after he gave this interview. And now he will know the truth, of course, on the other side. I think that it was also quite interesting how he was critical of magic when Arthur C. Clarke, that apparently was with him in the same room in that secret meeting, stated once, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Thank you so much for following us. Me and Christy today, another epic transmission here from the mountains of California. Next week we will be
back at home.
God willing, back at home in our studio. In the meantime, please purchase a copy of the Vatican's Top Secret Alien Agenda. And this is a book, guys, that you definitely need to get. It's available in Kindle format, paperback format, hardcover.
Buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody, wherever you are, have a great week. And if you want to encourage us to do more, GoFundMe or Cash App for your donations. But we always prefer you to purchase a book, because book is also for your benefit, for your own knowledge. And next week we will have another incredible transmission, guys. I'm preparing a show. Can't tell you anything.
Are you ever going to do a show about your encounter?
Yes.
Because, I think that's so interesting.
Yes, but first people need to read about it. Then we will talk about it. Maybe in a month or two. When they're
I think it's a lot to talk about.
Yes. But I have also another show ready for next week, which is equally interesting, trust me. It regards things that...
What is it about? Did you tell us?
Manipulation of the current UFO discourse, but I can't tell you more about it.
He keeps a lot of secrets.
Peter Thiel. I can't say.
Peter Thiel. No. I heard it.
No. Okay.
And how about that guy that died? That was kind of weird.
Which guy is that?
The guy that died from the Epstein thing.
Yeah.
The model guy that died. I think that's very strange, but not.
I mean, well, for people who have read this book, they know it's not really strange what happened. It was another of those associates from the modeling industry that has been silenced because they know way too much. That's what happened.
Then you see him on an interview, and then he's dead.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, this guy was operating from Paris, who was operating a model agency connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Anybody that was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, if they were too close to him, just like Jean-Luc Brunel, they get whacked.
Yeah.
Or like him. I mean, because I don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. I'm sorry, but that's more Trump propaganda. And let's remember that he was killed, Jeffrey Epstein, during the first Trump presidency. So, I mean, it's all connected. So please keep on supporting us and subscribe to my channels, because that's the only way we can carry on if we have your support to grow. Otherwise, we can't go anywhere, guys. We need to grow, and you can, of course, help us out. This is the end of our transmission. Carl Sagan.
It's true. And that's a great book by Carl Sagan, The Demon Haunted World. Sagan's very interesting, though, because he also wrote the movie Contact, and the book played Pale Blue Dot. And so, and in his early diaries as a child, he speculates a lot about UFOs. He has clearly a wonder for, the universe. And he talks about, Platonic objects, things like, higher dimensional space objects that, like a tesseract that you would only see the shadow of if you were kind of on a lower plane.
Jesse Michaels.
Acknowledged there were errors. I get the impression from you that he wasn't going to retract the whole substance of his story.
Like I say, that's what I call the conundrum. Because you do have somebody who is who he said he was. He was in the places that he said he was. He had an interesting relationship with the General Trudeau, who was legendary in...
The books, Christie's book, Zagami Family Cookbook. It's unaffordable to go out and eat these days.
It is so unaffordable.
So purchase this book and transform your kitchen in a 5-star Italian restaurant. Otherwise, you can also read the Confessions of an Illuminati Princess, Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah. Bye, everyone!
Intervention. They are actually involved in something called Project Horizon, which was how would we fight from the moon. A lot of people don't realize the Army ballistic missile.
Next witness is Dr. Carl Sagan, Cornell University. It's no introduction. He comes to us today from Center for Radio Physics and Space Sciences. We welcome you, and we're very pleased that you would take the time out of your schedule to come to a place like Washington, where everything seems to be living in today and not tomorrow, to share with us your particular view of how our past and our present may well affect our future.